Good day and welcome to episode 2 of Becoming Her Anyway. I know it's been a hot minute. It's been 2 weeks since the first episode launched in this new podcast that I'm doing. And nonetheless, I'm here for episode 2. I was away, taking some downtime, enjoying time with my girls, busy working on the brand and some new gear that we're putting out there. So, yay! Good news. This episode is going to be me kind of just letting you know when I had my breakthrough, when I had that moment that, that kind of got me steered in the right direction. And I have to say, I live in Quebec. Yay, Quebec. Quebec sometimes truly lives up to the stereotype that you all hear. Yes, it does, especially with the language laws, but that's not what we're here for. That being said, I moved here with a brand new baby. No friends, no family. I had one great aunt that lived here, who since passed away. God rest her soul. I moved here with my husband, my two children. Like I said, brand new baby. And I wasn't diagnosed as going through like postpartum or anything like that. That pregnancy was smooth riding. I'll talk to you a little bit about prior or previous pregnancies before my girls. One even, that was a stillbirth. With that being said, that'll be future episodes. But I moved to Quebec. We made the decision. My husband was provided a job opportunity to come here, and it meant moving away from everything I knew. It meant moving away from my friends, my family, my job, my career. It meant starting fresh. And it was a decision that I didn't necessarily take lightly, but I didn't think deeply about it. I was so ready for change and so ready to so ready to raise my kids in a different environment that was not surrounded by alcoholism and marijuana, and partying. And I really just wanted to put them in an environment, or raise them in an environment that felt cleaner, for lack of a better way to put it. And I knew that in order for us to be able to do that, we needed to go like regear, like we need to go start somewhere else. And so when that opportunity came, we both just kind of looked at each other and said, we may regret it if we don't take it, and it could be the best opportunity that we take for our children. um, there's there's pros and cons, like financially, to living in this province versus Ontario, where I was born and raised. And the pros outweigh the cons when it comes to children here. People will talk to you about like car insurance versus like house insurance and such, and like car payments here, plates and stuff. Anyhow, when you look at all of the variables for that, yeah, Quebec doesn't actually, in taxes and such, doesn't actually sound too appealing. With that being said, when you have kids, it was definitely more appealing to live here. When we moved here, there was a daycare for $7 a day. Prior to that, I think it was $5. It did end up going up to almost $20 a day, because it was then income based. With that being said, it was still a lot cheaper than the $37.50 a day that we were paying for our oldest, who attended daycare as a baby in Ontario. So we decided that it was definitely something that we financially could do, and that we may regret if we didn't try. So we got here, and with anything that's brand new, it was, you got to work out the kinks, but you're kind of on a high, right? Because you're starting somewhere new, and you go into it with a fresh perspective, right? You go into it, that's not the word that I was looking for. You go into it just on a high, like happy. Well, that's me anyways. Like I try to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. I vibrate on a very high energy. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. We got this. It's going to be fine. Right. So we moved to Quebec and everything's great. And my husband's in his new position, meeting new people, traveling and such, still back and forth from Ontario, as he handles all the nuances that are coming his way, and everything that's kind of changing for him in his new career path. And when they brought us here originally, the company had put us in the Eastern Townships in this little town called Bromont, and there was a water park there, and they had us in this condo. We were there for a month. It was really nice. And they like sprinkled the fab all over it. And so it definitely was something that we were very intrigued by. So when we came here, it was all great. The kids were, settling well. I mean, again, with a brand new baby, she was almost 9 months. At that point, she didn't really have much to say. My 4-year-old was open to meeting new people and to this new, way of living, really. And she flourished. She did fabulous. Now 18 years old, so 14 years later, she's just kicking ass in life. So, yeah, it was definitely something that worked to her favor. I slowly started to fall into a severe depression. And this depression came out of nowhere. Like there was no warning. Like I didn't even know I was depressed and started until I started having dark thoughts and jealousy, like, and fits of jealousy. My husband would come home and he's so much an introvert versus me being an extrovert, and he would complain about having to socialize. Meanwhile, I was at home with two little kids all day, dying and like thirsty for socializing. And I became so jealous and bitter of him, towards him, sorry, and his complaining. It was just like, shut up. Like, what are you complaining about? I would kill to have a job. And a job I didn't even like, just to socialize with people at this point. And I used to, what I would call, chew his ear, like, blah, 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 like, just talk his freaking ear off when he came home, and he was so depleted from having to speak to people all day that he didn't really have time for me. And it started to make me become bitter towards him. And I wasn't really getting out much. I wasn't trying to get myself a sense of community. I started to feel sorry for myself. And the more bitching and complaining that he did, the more bitter I became towards him. And he had a Christmas party that he had to go to. We had moved here in October, and it was 2 months later, and he had a Christmas party he had to go to, and he was complaining about it. And I was like, can you bring your wife? Like, is it a +1? I really want to go. Can I go for you instead? I was so desperate to socialize. And of course there was no +1. I could not attend with him, and he just didn't want to go. I ended up, convincing him that you should socialize at your work, da da da, and he ended up going. But again, like, he didn't really want to. It's just not him. He's not a social person. With that being said, the bitterness became deep. And then a female coworker of his made me extremely jealous. She was text messaging him with like little emojis and stuff that I thought were really inappropriate. And I became very insecure. And the dark thoughts that I was falling into became darker. And I started to hate him. I started to feel this severe bitterness towards him and everything that he had going for him. And I had a conversation with a family member who told me, well, maybe you shouldn't, that I was complaining to, that maybe I shouldn't just be riding his coattails. And I was like, is that what I did? Did I ride his coattails here? And then it dawned on me, I need my own success. Like, I need to start something on my own. I need my own income. Like, I need to do something. I need to get the hell out of the house. So I started my own small business. which was very successful. And I, enjoyed it. It was a residential and commercial cleaning business, and it did well. And I was happy to do it. And then after, I started a call center business, and, I dabbled with a couple of other ventures. But I realized at that point that I was still very much unhappy because I didn't have a sense of community. Because when you get these gigs, you're riding solo. I mean, I had to hire someone eventually, but at the beginning I was riding solo, and I just had the keys to these properties and nobody was home. So I was really not socializing, and that's what I was missing. And I got darker or deeper and deeper into the darkness of depression, and I was mad at my husband for me not being happy. And I remember we were having words back and forth, and we were arguing and if you know me, my volume's not really low. So yeah, we were arguing at pretty high volumes, to the point that it woke my daughter up one night. And I remember those nights. I remember being woken up from my parents fighting, and stuff going on in my house that I shouldn't have had to deal with as a child. And um, I just remember looking at my husband saying, I don't remember the exact words, but I looked at him and said, "I'm not happy and it's your fault." And my daughter looked at me and my husband, and she was upset, like that we were fighting, and we had to like calm her down and like gain our footing and put ourselves in check, basically, so that she was not traumatized. I'm sure she was in that moment, but that we didn't continue to traumatize her from our not getting along and or really fighting. And I remember my husband saying to me, "Your happiness is not my issue. It's not up to me to make you happy." And it clicked. Took a moment, but it clicked. And in that moment, I realized, I mean, it didn't click in a sense where I was fixed, but in that moment, I realized, shit, it really is not up to him to make me happy. Happiness comes from the choice that I make, the choices I make. I have to just decide to be happy. And no, I did not just wake up the next morning and say, "Oh, that's it, I'm happy, everything's fine now." But slowly, I started to build a sense of community. I started to take my children out places where I was meeting people, got involved once my daughter enrolled in school, in volunteering and meeting, parents of, her friends, having play dates and stuff, and started socializing more. But prior to that, the dark depression that I got into got so severe that I started to have suicidal thoughts, and I went to go get help. Thank God I did, because who knows if I'd be here to this day. So that's what really was my epiphany, my breakthrough moment. It was truly just me becoming so bitter and blaming someone else for how I felt. And that someone who's supposed to be my life partner, the person that I chose to, ride the wave with, ride this through this world with, turn around and tell me that it's not up to them. It's not their choice. It's not their decision. I have to decide. And to this day, I know that the decision is mine. I know that I'm the one who has to wake up and say, "Girl, you gonna be happy." And the older I get, the less what's I give about what people think, what people have to say. And I choose happiness. I see the world differently because I want to be positive. I want to be the goodness in this world. I want to become and always become the change the world needs to see, of positivity and goodness. So that was my breakthrough moment. That was the moment that it all came kind of crashing down on me. Again, it wasn't like a breakthrough where I just woke up and everything was fine the next day, but those words turned my life around. So more to come with this podcast. There's going to be, again, more of me telling you stories, more of me having those moments. But yeah, each day is still a struggle. I shouldn't say each day. Each crazy moment is still a struggle, when my kids get sick or it's not really a struggle, I kind of know at this point, but when death happens, when you get close to someone and then you see their true colors and you lose bonds and connections. You know, life has not always been easy. Changing careers and such has not always been easy, but it starts with your attitude. It starts with how you feel, like the spin you put on it, right? Like the emotion that you put behind it. And I promise you that happiness only comes from within. If I don't teach anybody anything in life, and that's the only lesson that I ever teach people, especially, the lesson to be put out there for anyone who's kind of going through the darkness, you got to choose happy. It's your choice, period. And you can choose happy in the shittiest circumstances. I promise you, you can. So, more to come with episode 3, but I just kind of wanted to share because I had promised during episode 1 that you would all know what the breakthrough moment was, and that was it for me. All right, you totally got this. Have a fabulous day, and there's more to come. Bye.